All right. Well, thank you so much. I'm so glad that you could join us for this podcast. Um, Before we get started, please can you introduce yourself, share your pronouns, and tell our audience a little bit about who you are and the work that you do?
Oh, yeah. I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Wally. And can I just say thank you so much? It's a pleasure to be here and for you to have me. So, hello, everyone. My name is Arc Telos Saint Amour. It is a very long name, so most folks call me Tay. My mandatory pronouns are they, them, there. And yeah, I'm a queer and trans person of color. I'm disabled. I'm neurodivergent. I'm autistic. I have co occurring serious mental illness. I struggle with substance use. And so, like, I have a lot of things that I think talking about trauma informed workplaces for disabled 2S LGBTQI plus folks is not only, I think, important to the society and the world we live in now, but important to me personally, because I know I've really struggled as a disabled queer and trans person to hold down employment, to find leadership opportunities, and to really be able to grow and thrive and to find environments that I feel safe and affirmed in. So, it's really important to me, this topic, and to sort of have these conversations. I will say quickly, though, Wally, while I have you, we're all complex. So, like, I am far
Mhm.
more than just my identities and my career. I love Mario Party and Mario Kart and can only be Princess Peach. It's like a little phrase that I tell people, but I'm very serious about it. I love nature. Like right now, for folks at home, I'm outside. It's a forest outside. I do all my meetings outside. I live on 5 acres and love being outdoors. And all of that adds to the complexity, right? We're all
Mhm.
complex people. I'm far more than just my identities.
Yeah. Well, and that's so great. Thank you for sharing all of those identities because, I think it's great to kind of get to know you better and know the things that are important to you and how we kind of move in those spaces together. Your presentation you just shared with us, Tay. You mind if I call you Tay?
Please, yeah, it's all
That's
affirming.
great. So Tay, you shared the work you do and your presentation that you just did for us today covered trauma informed care in the workplace, and you just shared a lot of the many intersecting identities that you call yours that are mandatory for you, and you shared a little bit about why it's important for the world to know and community and society. But in terms of service providers, so people who are working with individuals with disabilities, people who work with individuals who have intellectual development disabilities or other disabilities, why is it so important for people to know and in some ways celebrate and embrace people who have many intersecting identities or those who don't? And some of the things that you covered, why is it so important for service providers and the people who do the work to really know this and to do the work together?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question, Wally. I mean, I think that there's at least two very clear buckets for me. One, it's the right thing to do, right? I mean, we're people, and all people, all life deserves validation, respect, affirmation. All life deserves the right to thrive and to find joy, whether it's in the workplace or at home or on the
Mhm.
street or anywhere, right? And so I believe it's important and should be important to everyone because we're alive and we exist and we're real and we're worthy and we have value inherently and just being who we are, right? And so I would say that that's number one for me. Number two, I would say, and I think you got to this a little bit. I mean, from a business standpoint, right? If we want to kind of bring in the business money case to this, it's really been proven over and over again that centering folks with disabilities, centering folks with marginalized identities really helps our bottom line grow, right? If you're out there trying to provide a service, no matter what it is, right? If you're trying to sell a product, if you're at a nonprofit trying to help folks, if you're in a medical profession, right? You're there to provide a service for others. And in order to do that more, better, holistically, to find more people to serve, you're going to have to dip into like diverse individuals, right?
Mhm.
Because, the 2S LGBTQI plus community is huge. I mean, there are studies that show us being over 22 million strong. And I know that we have business organization out there that I think like are they call it like the purse, like the buying power of the queer and trans
Mhm.
community is like in the billions, right? And so even if you like didn't want to do the right thing and just kind of like business and bottom line and profit is all that matters, there's a lot of money to be made, right? And so I think for folks out there, it's important for all of the reasons, right? And uplifting that complexity and honoring that, I think is really helpful. I would also say the last thing is that I statements, I find when we center the most marginalized folks, we all have the ability to have joy and to thrive more, right? Because really what we're doing is we're recognizing those growth edges, we're recognizing those areas in which harm can be done, and we're being more inclusive. We're being more accessible. We're being more
Mhm.
trauma informed. We're meeting those people where they're at. And those things in which we put in place can be helpful for literally everybody, not just folks with disabilities, not just folks from the 2S LGBTQI plus community. So I think that's another thing that oftentimes I think it gets overlooked, right, by service providers. It's like, oh, well, it's too expensive. And if we center them, we're going to have to center these people over here. And it's so time consuming and all of these things. And, largely, I believe all of those things are myths to begin with. Why don't you
Yeah.
try it and then let me know? Because oftentimes you'll find it's a lot easier than you think it is. And when you do those things, again, you are helping spread the word about your service. You're finding new people, new folks to provide. And also, again, you're rising the bar of how you serve everybody, not just folks with disabilities and who are queer and trans. So I don't know if that made sense, but I think that that'd be my
It
answer.
did, and I think that's one of the things with the conversation you said, there are many people who identify as part of the 2S LGBTQIA community who have disabilities. I think the data out there right now is roughly around like 36 to 39%. And so with that, there are gonna be unfortunately, just this the nature of things right now, there are many employers or service providers who are not very familiar with the term, right? Or with some of the acronyms and some of the kind of understanding what intersectionality means and what trauma-informed care is. So, they're trying to learn more, and they wanna do more, and you spoke about allyship and talked about how to be, interrupters or disruptors. What advice would you have for an employer service provider who this is we talk about people who've if they wanna make lasagna, they've already, they got the recipe and it's ready to go in the oven, and you have people who haven't even gone grocery shopping yet. What advice do you have for employment service providers or for individuals who do this work who don't have that kind of familiarity or knowledge or education about the community?
Yeah, yeah, and I love that analogy about the lasagna and the recipe. So to lead into that, it's a wide spectrum, right? Because at one end, you have folks who love lasagna. It's their favorite meal.
Right.
They make it all the time. They don't even need a recipe anymore. They've got all the ingredients. They're doing all the things. And then you also have people at the opposite end of the spectrum that one, hate lasagna, or two, have no idea what lasagna even is. And in
Mhm.
between is a vast spectrum of experience, right? And so if we're applying this to sort of disability justice, the 2S LGBTQI plus community, and I would say really broadly diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility practices, that huge spectrum exists there, right? You have folks who, one, don't want to do it, hate it. You have folks who maybe are open to it, maybe would want to, but it's really scary out there right now to sort of do those things. And then you have folks at the opposite end of the spectrum of like, that's all we do. We care about it and we're going to do it no matter what. And so I think my sort of advice is to be real honest with yourself and your organization.
Mhm.
Where are you at on that spectrum? Because if you aren't self aware enough, if you don't know your organization well enough to place yourself anywhere on that vast spectrum of lasagna and recipe, you're not going to be able to find practical solutions. So the first is to be honest with yourself. Once you're honest with yourself, I'm hoping you're somewhere in the realm of, I think it would be nice. I'd like to try. Then here's the thing. you have to try, right? I know a lot of folks mean well, a lot of folks have good intention. There's a lot of allies out there who hesitate to do something because they're afraid of getting it wrong. And here's the thing, if you're so afraid of getting it wrong, you're never going to get it right because you're
Yeah.
never going to do anything, right? And so I would say you really have to get over that hump of just putting yourself out there, even if it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable, even if you might fail, even if you might get it wrong, but you have to try. You got to start the social justice journey, right? For there to be a journey, you got to open the door and walk out the house to go to the grocery store for those ingredients, right? And so you got to start, you got to try. And here's the
Mhm.
thing, we're excited to have you. Like our community needs you. Our community needs allies and we need help right now. We will see your good intentions. Now you may fail and failing may cause harm, right? And hopefully we're going to feel comfortable enough to say, hey, that really hurt. We may call you out on this harm. And here's the
Mhm.
thing, having a good apology in your back pocket can be helpful, right? And so knowing also yourself well enough to like, okay, I'm not going to get defensive if I'm corrected. I'm going to say, gosh, I'm so sorry. Thank you for pointing that out to me. I really want to get it right. I'm trying. And then most importantly, you move on and you try harder. You practice. You do that thing that you were told
Mhm.
because really correcting someone I see is a gift, right? If I didn't care about you, I wouldn't correct you, right? If I thought you are never going to be on my side, you are never an ally, going to be an ally to me, it means you're never going to be in my life. I'm never going to build a relationship with you. I don't care what you do. Bye. I'm not correcting you.
Yeah.
If I'm correcting you, if I'm saying, ooh, ouch, that did some harm, it's kind of a gift. It's my way of saying, I see you're trying and let me help you try a little harder. Let me try to get you some practice. Let me tell you how you can zhuzh those edges because some harm was caused. And that's an invitation to be in relationship with me. It's an invitation to build trust. It's an invitation to learn. So don't be afraid of that. Embrace it. Embrace it as a gift. And so that's kind of how I would enter in with those folks who are
Yeah.
like, I've got the recipe, but not the ingredients. Do I even like lasagna? I don't know. I would say, why don't you try lasagna first and then make a decision?
Right. And I love that because, invitation, I love when you say invitation. One of my agreements that I made for myself is, never underestimate the power of invitation. And I love that. And then in terms of, I love the way you say practice because people need to understand it's going to be something that's going to take a while. Yeah. And I appreciate that, but you got to do that. There's a wonderful poem from a disability advocate named Laura Hershey. It's called You Get Proud by Practicing. And it's a wonderful, wonderful poem. And you shared a lot about that. Are there any resources or any things that you could suggest or recommend for organizations or people who want to start the conversation, who want, like you said, they gotta find a cookbook for making lasagna or whatever. Do you have something, Tay, just off the top of your head that you could maybe share that might be helpful for people to start that work?
Yeah, yeah, I do. And I'm gonna lead with the selfish answer, which is hire me.
Yeah.
So like I exist, I do this work every day. I'm in community. I am here to help, right? I can be your guide. Reach out to me anytime. You can hire me. So that would be my number one answer, very selfishly. Now, here's probably the far less expensive, easier answer, which is the internet can be a glorious thing, right? Google it, right? Search it. There is plenty of content creators on TikTok and social media, on YouTube that do a great job talking about the community. And here's the thing with that. One, you're going to be hearing someone's direct lived and living experience who is in community. That's someone who is directly
Mhm.
experiencing it and living it. And that's so important. And two, if they're sharing that online, that's their choice. That's their agency. They've already decided, I want to share this information with you. Because I do think that personal interaction, meeting people, talking to
Mhm.
people, knowing people, building friendships, relationships, right? Building that's the thing that changes hearts and minds because we're normal, everyday people. You just have a warped version of what normal means, right? But we're awesome people who add value and we make great friends and great coworkers. Come hang out with us. But I don't necessarily want you walking up to me on the street to be like, "You're a queer person, right? You
Yeah.
appear to be disabled. Tell me all about it," right? Ooh, gosh, that's gonna be pretty hurtful and harmful. So I would say start with the internet because those folks are already inviting you in to learn more. And the more you learn more, I think the more you can kind of see it. I mean, that's the thing I love about critical thinking is that the more you learn, you're able to spot it in your day-to-day life, right?
Mhm,
Like if you didn't
mhm.
know what a stop sign was, you'd probably never really notice them or you'd go through them, right? But learning what a stop sign is, what you're supposed to do with it, what it looks like, then you can then see it and you stop the car. And so I think really learning is important. You know, there's this phrase that education is power, knowledge is power. But to me, it's what you do with it that's more important. It's the actions, the change, the betterment that comes from that knowledge that's even more important. So that would be, I think, some easy resources that I hope folks can sort of do to get started.
Yeah. Yeah, great. I love the selfless answer. So, ARC is
For
available,
sure.
everyone. Um, so, this is kind of a big question, and I kinda want this to be one of our last ones. If you could change one thing to improve services for 2S LGBTQIA+ plus people with disabilities, what would it be?
Ooh, I could change one thing.
I don't wanna limit your expansive creativeness and ideas, so let's say 1 or 2.
Yeah. Okay. Um, gosh, this is so hard with someone with extreme anxiety, right? Because oh my gosh, I
Yeah,
could pick
exactly.
anything, right?
Put you
Like
on the spot. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Um, okay. I think I would change service providers' minds to click the switch to say it matters,
Mm,
right? I think, right, giant spectrum of complexity of what it means to be people and to engage with other folks and to be in a workplace and to be a service provider, right? Anywhere from like that lasagna recipe, I always want to center the most marginalized to like, I don't even know marginalized people exist and I'm just happy in my privilege. And so I think the biggest thing that would make a difference is for folks just to care, because I
yeah,
think that's the first step. If you can at least admit that we're real, we have value, and we're being devalued, and you can see that as something that's important to you, even if you don't experience it, caring about it, I think, is the first step. So if
mm,
you can just say, hey, this is important, whether you experience it or not, it's important and you should care about it. I feel like that's the start. Everything comes after that. Because what do you do if you care, right? If you care for something, you take care of it. You learn about it. You learn how to treat it well. You know, you do all of these things if you care about something that's different if you don't, you know?
yeah.
And I feel like, gosh, that can be applicable to literally anything. It doesn't just have to be sort of disabled, queer, and trans folks. I hope that you care about literally everything and imagine what our world would look like, right? You've got a potato chip wrapper, right? Most folks don't care about it. It's just a wrapper. Who cares? What if you did care about it, right? You'd probably think about, ooh, is this going to decompose? Should I put this in a trash can? Who made this wrapper? Where did it come from? Is it plastic that came from oil? The complexity is immense if you start caring. And I just think
Mm.
that's the thing I would change. I want y'all to care because we're real, we're important, and we have value.
Well, I wanna thank you for the conversation, and so, before we leave, is there anything else you would like to share with our listeners today? I know we covered a lot, and we got into some certain things, but the final thoughts are yours, my friend.
Yeah. Oof. Gosh, again, open ended. Okay, so this is
Yes.
what I'm going to say. I'm going to say thank y'all for listening. Like because that's an action, right? If you're listening to this, if you're watching this, you know, if you watch the video, you attended the webinar, that's an action. That's a tangible, palpable thing that you did to be an ally, to learn more, to care, to enter into that betterment. And so thank you. Thank you for trying. Thank you for caring. And I'll also say when you're done listening to this, you're no longer an ally, right? Allyship is not an identity, it's an action. It's things you have to do, right? And so I hope that you will follow up after this podcast with more actions, with more learning, with listening to other people, with doing other things, because those actions really, really matter. And that's what carries that work forward. So thank you for being here, but keep doing more.
You're doing more. We have more to do, and we have more that we can do together to improve many things. Um, Tay, I've really enjoyed it. How can people connect with you and learn more about your work? What's the best way for them to contact you?
Oh, for sure. I appreciate that, Wally. Well, I have a website. It's not very fancy, but I like it. So you can reach out at arctelosconsulting.com. So you can check me out on there. I'm not a big social media fan, but for some reason, LinkedIn, I am on LinkedIn every day of my life. So find me on LinkedIn. Please don't follow me, friend me. Let's connect. So that's Telos Amour on LinkedIn. You can email me as well. So my email address is telos, Telos, at arctelosconsulting.com, or you can reach out to me. It's sort of quote unquote my day job, which is all consuming because I love it, which is Youth Move National. So you can also check out our nonprofit organization as well and find me there. We do a lot of good work and we could use your help in that realm.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time. And for all of our listeners out there, continue. When you are done with this, listening to this, thank you for listening. And thank you for doing more once you end the podcast. Thank you, everyone. Be well.